Hey, everybody, welcome to the Rescue World podcast brought to you by Rescue A Generation, formerly known as A Different Cloth. Look, we've been mixing it up here in the lab a little bit, and we thought, why not invite y'all into the Rescue World to make the impact that you're called to make on this generation. Welcome to the Rescue World. Now, today, we're going to talk a little bit about how we got to the place that we are right now, currently today. And I'm going to give y'all some secrets about our secret sauce. What in the world makes Rescue a Generation so successful? How have we accomplished what we've accomplished? And honestly, I believe that for listeners for this particular episode, there's going to be a lot that you could just kind of take and apply to your current context that's going to be really, really powerful. But first, let's talk about where we are today. Currently, Rescue a Generation has been in existence for 9 years, coming up on our 10th year anniversary. Super excited about that. We have 15 full-time staff members. We're a campus ministry. So when I tell people this all the time, most campus ministries, their staff has to raise their own salary. We actually have 15 full-time staff that don't have to raise their own salary because we've been able to creatively produce a solution to a problem that people are having all over the place. And I'm going to let you in on that secret today. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. Over the last 9 years, we have easily reached over 100,000 students through our school-wide assemblies, success clubs, Takeover, Manhood Camp, our two faith-based events that we do. And so literally our numbers have been pretty astronomical. Now, I'll give you a little bit of context and work backwards from that because that's a large number. You're like, how in the world and how is that even possible? Well, in a matter of 1 month at the start of a school year, we could speak to about 50,000 students alone in 1 month's time by doing our school-wide assemblies. And so literally you think these are not like 50,000 fake followers on Instagram or TikTok or just views. These are real people sitting in an auditorium with us, a gymnasium, or on a football field that are experiencing a high energy, super dope concert, 3 different motivational speakers that are challenging them to level up in every area of their life. And so the numbers we've been able to do has been awesome. The other thing that we've been able to do is we've had over 5,000 students complete our 10-week program in the last 9 years. That's 5,000. Do you know, as a youth pastor, I couldn't get my youth group over 50 kids. I couldn't get 50 kids to come to me. And there were some days I would get right at that 50 number. And I had friends that, man, they were bringing in 200 kids and 300 kids. And I got caught up in the comparison game as a youth pastor. But I love when in scripture, Jesus shows up as the disciples are fishing on one side of the boat. And he literally says, hey, why don't you take your nets and cast them to the other side of the boat? And they've been fishing all night. They're tired. They're like, this ain't working. I don't know what's happening here. And they literally throw their nets to the other side of the boat. And the Bible says that they had so many fish they couldn't reel it in by themselves. They needed help to reel it in. I felt like that's what happened in campus ministry for me. When I was trying to get kids to come to me, I was fishing on one side of the boat and I was tired. I was exhausted. I'd worked really hard. I had to show up for them over and over again. Getting them to come to me just felt like a challenge sometimes. And when I threw the net to the other side of the boat and I went to them, it was like the floodgates opened, y'all. Not only were students drastically impacted by us going to the campuses, so I'm talking radical change taking place on the campus. I'll talk about the data that backs what I'm saying in just a moment. Radical change on the campuses, but even beyond that, the amount of doors that began to open up as we went to the school sites because schools needed help. Schools needed help. Look, if you're a youth worker out there and you are not doing campus ministry yet, and you're trying to figure out where can I start, Yes, you can do the Christian club. That is an option, and I'm a advocate and a fan of it. There's a good chance you can find one that's already in existence. You could even come alongside of and support. But I would start asking some real questions. Where does this school need the most help at? And how do I go help them there? And watch what would happen for you, your ministry, for your students, and for the access that you would have for students. So we started doing this, and literally, y'all, I would say 2016, 2017, we were on one school. 2018, I think we got on 2 to 3 schools. 2019, I felt like we're just going to turn this up a little bit. Let's start knocking on doors. Let's start asking. And we got on to I think we got up to 7 schools right before COVID. And then COVID happened and we just dipped like everybody else. And so we went to 2 schools, and I'll tell you the story of what opened up the floodgates for us. And then we'll talk about some data that we've seen over the last 9 years. And then I'm going to introduce y'all to our secret sauce, which is what we'll be talking about all this season on the podcast. But we get down to 2 schools, and if you know anything about us, we believe that this is a sight and sound generation. They need to see it. It needs to be catchy. They need to hear it. The way they memorize song lyrics, like y'all, in fact, Ron Luce coined that term back in like the early 2000s. He says, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, they are a sight and sound generation. They need to see it. They need to hear it. And so Rescue Generation just knew that from the beginning. And we did really well in digital content. So we started doing, Instagram videos and things like that. Well, when COVID shut the world down, we turned to YouTube Live because most of young people, even now today, are living in the YouTube space. They are spending hours upon hours watching these video game guys talk about how they play video games, and like they're just invested in YouTube. And so we thought, why not go where the students are? The same concept that we use to go to schools where students are is the same concept we used to go to YouTube where students are. And what we did, we told one school to let us do a school-wide assembly and let us do it on YouTube Live during COVID. Everybody's locked in their room. The school agreed, and we were blown away at what transpired. And so look, we weren't super techie at the time, so we didn't have the whole lights, camera stuff. We honestly had I might have been like a phone camera or maybe one camera set up. And then we had a little bit of a backdrop like this. So it was we had a cool little backdrop. And then it was myself, it was Brandon, and it was Erica. And we honestly all just took 7 minutes and jumped in front of the YouTube Live with the chat going. And we had one person running the chat, responding to the students. And we just give this short motivational, man, you can overcome the obstacles, you can accomplish big things, very short. And what happened blew our mind. It was because we went to where students were, and because we learned how to engage them in such a way, we had their attention, we weren't boring. Those students blew up that comment section. They were in the comment section go off, King, go off. It was wild. They were saying all types of stuff, but and they weren't spamming it like that. It actually was very little spam in it, because students, they go a little crazy sometimes. So that spam section, be real. At the time, the first one, they were not spamming like that. People were blown away at how engaged the students were with us in the comment section, with no money, no resources, a strategy to go where the students were, to engage them at their level. And that one principal went back the next day. God is my witness. That one principal went back the next day, told 5 principals about us. The following day, my phone, this thing right here, rang. All 5 principals called me that following day. And it was in December, and it was almost Christmas break. So we set up a meeting for January of 2021, right after Christmas break. And that meeting turned into 4 full out, we want you to bring your assembly, your success club. In one meeting, 4 schools opened up to us. And I was shook. I was like, yo, this is wild how fast this is happening. Well, when you start seeing doors open that fast, you start feeling the momentum. And I don't know if you guys have ever like thought about this, but sometimes you got to strike when the iron's hot. And I felt like the iron was hot, so we struck again. I called another school district that we were in, and I was like, I don't even know where this is gonna go or not, but let me just shoot a shot. And I said, hey, we've worked with one school in your district. What do you think? What if we came in and did a school-wide assembly in every middle school and high school in your district? And I remember the response on the other side of that. They were like, give me a second. I think this is possible. Let me call. And they circled back and they said, do you have the staff to do your full program in every middle school and high school in our district? And at the time, we had no money, no resources, nothing. And I was like, of course we do. Like, we got everything that we need. We're ready to go. And he said, okay, how much? And I said $25,000 per school per year. I thought, let's just shoot the shot. Like, let's just see what happens. He said, I'm gonna call you back. And I remember he called me back, and Rescue a Generation changed forever, because he said, done, let's write the contract. And then I was like, dang it, I wish I would have charged higher. Like, he said yes, way too easy at $25K. Nonetheless, we went from 2 schools in 2021 to 23 schools, 1 semester. We went from reaching about a little over 150 to 200 students in our success clubs prior to COVID, to literally reaching over 1,000 students in a matter of a moment, going through a 10-week program. And look, I tell people this all the time. Getting the gig is easy. Like, don't get me, it's not that easy. Like, you got to put some work in. But getting that first opportunity is not always that difficult, because sometimes people will just test it out on you. They'll just see, all right, let's see how this goes. Keeping the opportunity, that's what, like, takes real work. Like, you got to actually do what you say you're going to do. You got to produce the results you say you're going to produce. You got to show up the way you say you're going to show up. And so to get 23 schools that initial year, and the thing I'm most proud of now is that in the last 4 years, we have not dipped under 23 schools since then, which tells me that we didn't just show up well the first time. We've been showing up well and better each and every time. So much so that we're slated to be on about 40 schools this school year. Now, that was a lot of information, a lot of our story. Maybe you're inspired by that. Look, when I go to conferences and stuff around the country, we've also tested the waters in other states. We've been in Arlington, Texas. We've done some things in Arlington. We've entertained some things in Chicago. Chicago's like right there on that like border with us, where the school was like, yes, we want you, we need you. Let's figure out some funding for it. And we've been at that standstill with the funding conversation. But we are on our way to being in schools literally across America. And I think back to where we were, how we got here, and not only how we got here, but what's been the secret to our success. Like, when I was saying, when I go to conferences and they hear about, number one, we're unapologetically a faith-based organization. The gospel is in our mission statement on purpose. Number two, we are a campus ministry. Yes, we raise money, but also we have a fee for service based on the program that we created that generates some revenue for us. So it's a really kind of a powerful approach to how we were able to keep the lights on and things flowing and our staff paid and things like that. And it feels like we're in a really dope hybrid of a model. They're blown away that we're faith-based, that we're in SoCal, that we're in schools, in the space that we are. And almost everybody says, how did you do it? How can we do it? How do we take this nationwide? How do we get involved? I was literally 5 minutes ago on a call with somebody from New York, and I was listing all the places we're doing it. Oh, you're in SoCal, da, 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 da. And he was like, and in New York? And I was like, well, not yet, unless you're bringing me. Like, we're down, pull up. We'll easily come to New York. And do you want to know the secret? Do you want to know what's actually created the success that we have today? I'm going to let you in on what I thought used to be our core values. And so we've had this process that we went through as we were growing and evolving. We had to get really clear on our mission, really clear on our vision, really clear on our values, because the more you grow and the less clear you are on that, the harder it is for people to follow along. So we went through this process, and I realized what we created as our core values initially was less about the values that we like possess and want to live out and like stand for all the things that Rescue a Generation is doing. And it was more a process by which we created that we've seen transformation take place in the lives of literally thousands of students. And so here is a little bit of data for you. 24% decrease in chronic absenteeism from kids that have gone through our program. High schools, we've seen 50% of the students that go through our program have an increase in their attendance. Those numbers are not the same or synonymous, but one does lead to the other. Middle schools, we've seen 69% of middle schoolers who completed our program have an increase in their attendance in schools. And I don't know if you know this or not, but one of the biggest issues in schools right now is attendance. It's how schools get funded. It's how they make money. And so if you can find a solution to help kids go to school more, you're just in a winning space. Beyond that, we've had schools bring us in. I remember a year ago or so, we had 27 girls that wouldn't stop fighting on their campus, all social media related, all they, bullying, cyberbullying. Somebody would post something, they all fight. Then they get cordial again, so they're okay to come back on campus. They're back from suspension. Then next thing you know, somebody posts something else. They go at it again. And this happened several times, and the school was like, we just literally don't know what to do. They brought in Rescue a Generation. So track with me on these numbers. Out of the 27 that started our program, 22 of them finished our program. Out of the 22 that finished our program, 21 of them to this day, like as of right now today, have not been suspended again since they got into our program. And those type of results, y'all, are the type of things that keep schools interested in Rescue a Generation. I've heard somebody tell me this before, that if I can't live without you, I won't. And we've created a context that schools need the work that we do. They literally cannot live without us. So without further ado, here is the secret sauce for Rescue a Generation. The first thing we say is in order to be effective with this generation, you gotta know how to communicate with them. Okay, so you have about maybe 60 seconds to 2 minutes to capture an audience when you're communicating with them. If you don't engage them well as a communicator, you've missed the point of your whole reason being there. It's less about what you have to say and more about how to get them to listen to what you have to say. And we spend a lot of time and energy, our school-wide assemblies. We bring a rapper, a DJ. We started like using these Wild 'N Out games, stuff that they're seeing on TV. That's been like, it's just been a part of like getting them engaged. Because if you can get them engaged to actually listen to what you're communicating, it's one of the first things that you got to be good at as a youth worker out there. Get them engaged in what you're saying. Once you communicate, the next step is to actually generate a conversation. I want to be really clear about this. A communication and a conversation are not the same. They are not the same. They're drastically different. Communication and conversation are not the same. A conversation is a two-way street. It means you have to be just as good of a listener as you are a speaker. Now, friends, if you're in the youth ministry world, I have seen a lot of people put a lot of energy into being a great speaker and still fall flat because they failed to be good listeners. If you will learn to listen well, you would be well on your way to making a massive impact in this generation. This is why we believe in coaching so much as an organization, because great coaches have to be expert listeners. I'm listening to what you're saying, what you're not saying. We stand on coaching here, and it's that for that reason. It's less about what I'm telling you to do or not. It's more about my ability to actually sit and listen to you talk about what it is you're talking about and discover what's getting in the way of your success. So you got to be a great communicator, and to get there, maybe not great, maybe let me backtrack that, because not everybody's a great communicator. You got to be an effective communicator, and then you got to generate good, strong, solid conversations, which means you have to be a listener. The third thing, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to shorten these and I'm going to add a couple elements in between that have shifted these. The third thing for us is you got to develop some trust. You have to spend consistent time showing up consistently the way you're committed to showing up, so students know how to trust you. Do you know how much students are lied to today? Let me go a little further. Do you know how much they're lied to by their parents? How many broken promises people have out to them? Hey, I will get this for you. Hey, I'll show up here for you. Or hey, I'll do the, or all of these promises that are being made, and then the promise falls through. I'll take it personal. I remember being a 7th grader, and my dad got sent to prison. And that was emotional in and of itself. Like the fact that like I'm a 12-year-old now have to be the man of the house. What made it worse for me, actually write about this in my book. What made it worse for me is I remember being on a phone call with my dad in prison. He's not around, not supposed to come back around for 3 years. And he said, I know I'm going to miss your birthday, but I promise I'm going to make it up to you. He said, when I get out, I'm going to make up your birthday. You know what I believe? I believe my dad meant every word of that. He had every intention to make up my birthday. My dad got out, and I was so excited. My dad got out in 4 months, by the way. So he got out way earlier than he was supposed to. And I was so excited that my dad was out. But do you know the one thing I never forgot is that he promised me he would make up my birthday. And he never did. To this day, my dad still never made up my birthday. And while I know that still sounds like I'm not. I've forgiven my dad, and we've grown a lot since then. But I want to use that as a reference point here at what happens when students are lied to, and when they can't trust the adults that are telling them X, Y, and Z. If you're going to be effective in rescuing a generation and being a part of the rescue world, you're going to have to learn to demonstrate trustworthiness and generate a level of trust between you and the student. It just means you got to show up for them when you say you're going to show up. Now, conversations, communication, conversations, trust. There's 2 other elements in here that I think are really important that I'll add here, and then we'll go into the last 2. Number 1 is you got to be willing to shift their perspective. Students have a lens. Well, we all have a lens by which we view life through. And if you're not careful, your lens will be the only thing you allow yourself to view life through. So for instance, I grew up in the hood. I did not have a lot of resources. I knew poverty really well. Was evicted, moved around a lot, the whole 9 yards. You know, that lens was shattered when I went to on a mission trip to Belize, Central America. I thought I was like born into poverty, and I thought I had it bad. And the moment I stepped into another world, another country, that whole lens was shattered. Look, perspective matters, especially to a student. So what does it look like for Rescue a Generation? How do we change perspectives? Well, number 1, we help them get out of their lens of what is into trying on a lens of what's actually possible. What could you be? How could you accomplish this? What could happen in your family if you became, all that you were supposed to be? And so literally shifting people's perspective is a major part of success, particularly with working with urban students. who are, I would say, even hardwired from trauma to have a lens of, it's not going to work out for me. This doesn't land. I'm never going to have enough. I'm not enough. Personally, we got to be willing to shift those perspectives. And then the next step from perspectives is feedback. Now, this one is interesting, and it's a little tough to embrace sometimes, because when you think of feedback, what comes to your mind? Like, literally, like, think about that. When you think of the word feedback, what's your first reaction to that? For most people, there's like this like heart pounding, some like sweaty palm, like, oh shoot, I'm gonna get criticized, ridiculed. Somebody's gonna tell me about myself. I'm not gonna want to, like, so we got this like weird like physical reaction to feedback. And what we've learned is you actually don't grow at the level that you're able to grow without feedback. Feedback is necessary to help young people go to the next level. So a great example of this would be this. It'd be if I meet a student who says he wants to be in the NBA, which we've seen a lot of them. I was funny, I'm looking at some pictures behind the camera here, and I'm looking at students that I remember some of their conversations about wanting to be in the league of some sort. And so if I look at students who say they want to be in the NBA, and then I examine their life, I look at their work ethic, I look at what time they show up to class or not, I look at how much they skip, I look at, are they smoking or not? Like, what are they actually doing with their body, with their life? A lot of times, y'all, I'm like, there's no way that you're going to make it to the NBA. Now, that's not me trying to shoot their dream down. That's me saying, based on the evidence of what I see currently taking place in your life, feedback is, if you don't change this, you're not making it to the NBA, because the NBA is for the elite. These are for people that your LeBron James, your Kobe's, who put like $1 million into their conditioning, and way more than that actually, but like put a lot of money into their conditioning and what it's going to take to be the elite athlete that they are. And not everybody's going to make it there. And feedback for that can be really valuable, because if I gave a student feedback that based on your current lifestyle, you are not going to go to the NBA, one of two things could happen. Number one, they could be like, nah, I bump you. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm gonna go into the NBA. All good. And if they keep living life the way they're living it, chances are they're probably not going to make it there. Number two, they could actually listen to the feedback. And if they actually listen to the feedback, they could actually grow, change some of their lifestyle decisions, and potentially actually make it to the NBA. I've seen a lot of youth workers be, I would say, hesitant to share feedback with students because we don't want to offend them. That's why the next 2 points are really important. The first one is this, relational equity. I'm going to say that word again. Relational equity. When you think of the word equity, you think about like how much investment you have in your house that you could pull out when you need it. Like, how much have I spent? How much have I given to the loan that if I need to like take a loan out, or if I need to sell or whatever, how much equity do I have in this? How much blood, sweat, tear equity? How much time equity? How much money equity do I have in this? Well, that same principle can be applied in relationships. How much equity do you have in the students that you're working with? Here's why that's really, really important. If you are expecting a student to change or to do something different and you don't have much equity with them, I am telling you, the results of them changing diminish drastically. How do we get students to change here at Rescue Generation? We spend a lot of time in our relational equity, loving kids, remembering their name, showing up for them consistently, sometimes buying them lunch, sometimes giving them a sandwich, to develop the equity that says, now when I need you to show up for me, I've invested a lot here. Now I need to be able to cash out on my investment. Now I need to be able to pull back and say, all right, look, you've seen me come through for you. Now I need you to show up for me. Well, how am I going to show up for you? You're going to go to your class on time. You're going to just start doing what you need to be doing. Like, you're going to actually do something different with your life. I've been investing with no expectation. I've been just giving and giving. Well, now the time is up. Now we're going to start seeing some shifts and some change happen through the relational equity. Real quick story here. I remember being one of the leaders of a urban youth ministry, bus ministry back in Oklahoma. Shout out to Chosen and Victory Christian Center in Tulsa. And we had these buses. And I was one of the guys that, like, when a bus, the numbers got really low on a bus, like 10 kids or under, they would put me in that neighborhood on that bus to start to build the numbers back up, because one of my gifts, one of my strengths was relational equity. I would show up in the neighborhood. I would play basketball on their apartment complex. I would challenge them to a game and say, if I beat you, you got to pull up to church with me. The bus will be here to pick you up. And a lot of times I would win, or me and my friend would win, and kids started coming to church. So we started building up these numbers back. Well, every time I would get on a new bus, I knew initially I have zero equity. Think about this in light of a relationship. It's a new relationship. I don't know you. You don't know me. Hi, I am Pastor Jose. I have zero equity with you. There's no reason you need to listen to me. Now, I will insert this note here. Back in the day, people sometimes would listen because you were a pastor, because there was a respect, a reverence for people in ministry. That's not today, y'all. Today it's sometimes it's worse even than whatever it is. And so if I show up for a new relationship, I have zero equity. The question is, what am I going to invest in this relationship, and how long until I can cash out on my equity? So here's what I would do. I would spend 1 month, so once a week, and then I would be in their neighborhoods another day. So 2 days a week in their neighborhood, just investing with them, connecting with them, loving on them, getting to know their names, their stories, seeing their families, hooping with them on their basketball court. And I would not ask them to do anything for me for that whole month. I would make sure there were no fights on the bus. So I would make sure that, hey, ain't no fighting here. But I wouldn't ask them to do anything. I'm not asking them to shut up. I'm not asking them to sit down. And I spent that entire month going seat to seat to listen to their story. And then I would give it about a month. And this was not an actual calendar month, but I would give it about a month. And then you know what? I realized when I would stand up, because I felt like I had something to share with them, I wanted them to get this point. I wanted them to do better. If I was frustrated with them, I had equity in these relationships. And if I asked them to be quiet, then they were. Literally they were. So much so, I will never forget, I had this bus, I had all this equity, and then I had a stranger come in that I didn't have no equity with. And here's what happened. We're on the way home from the bus, and I am going to go around the long way and bring this stop back at the very end because of who was getting dropped off there. That's really important factor here, because the person who was new was getting dropped off at that stop, and she wanted to be dropped off first. Okay, so I was like, look, I'll come back here because the helpers on the bus are getting here and they're going to help me throughout the whole ride. We'll come back here. She was hot. She was so angry. She was not having it. So much so, she starts taking off her earrings. She's like, no, I'm about to, if you've ever done urban ministry, you know what that means, right? And so I'm like, all right, bet. I'm not afraid. Obviously, I'm not going to put no hands on a female at all. But I'm going to stand my ground. I had so much equity on that bus that the rest of the students shut her up the rest of the ride. They pressed her for me. I didn't condone it, and I didn't ask them for help. They was like, yo, you ain't finna be talking to him like that. I had so much equity that when a new person came, it was drastically different because I didn't have no equity there. But the moment that she started disrespecting me, all my equity, I was able to cash in those chips. And that showed up for me in that setting. Now, true story, y'all. I have a sister who I love dearly, and she's very similarly gifted to me. She attempted to do the same thing that I did with no equity, This is an actual true story. And she got jumped by students on the bus because she tried to cash in on something she had no equity in. When we talk about relational equity, so much of our work here is about investing time, energy, consistency with young people for the sake of being able to cash in when we need to. I can now call you up. I can call you higher. I want to see you do better. And you're more liable to listen now because I've invested. I got equity here. So somebody over there say equity. So brings me to the last word in our secret sauce. It's results. I don't know about you. I don't like playing patty cake with kids for no results, for no reason. If I'm going to do something, I want it to be worth it. I want to see massive change. I want to see transformation in the lives of students. I want to see you to go from death to life, from light to dark. I want to see something completely shift about your life. And we have seen over and over and over again massive results because of this process. So here's the process. You ready? Effective communicators leads to great conversations. Great conversations leads to trust. Trust leads to relational equity. Relational equity leads to results. And ultimately, you can mix in there probably at any level feedback and perspective, because they're both super valuable in light of getting the results that we're getting. Now, look, y'all, all this season on this podcast, we're going to have guest after guest after guest that's going to shine a light in each of these areas out of their own expertise to help you, the youth worker, understand how to go and be effective in rescuing the world God's called you to. I'll end it with this. I don't think the world out there needs to be reached anymore as much as they need to be rescued. Kids today are drowning in a world of depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, sin, chaos, calamity, like darkness, you name it, they're drowning in it. And gone are the days that we can do cute youth programs and expect kids to come to us. We have to go to them, and we have created a secret sauce here at Rescue a Generation that has made us effective in the students that we're reaching. We got the data to prove it. We have the resources that are backing us to prove it. We have a team of people to prove it. And now we want to invite you into this journey on this podcast to show you what's actually possible as you join the rescue world. I can't wait for you to hear some of these guests. It's going to be a fire season. Like, subscribe, tune in, tap in, share, whatever you got to do, but get on this rescue world journey with us, and we will effectively rescue a generation together. I will see y'all soon.